All right, President Trump blasting GM and the United Auto Workers Union on Twitter over the auto giant's decision, to end production at its plant in Lordstown, Ohio. The president tweeted that he spoke to GM CEO Marry Barra about the plant over the weekend. Jessica Smith is live in our D.C. bureau with the latest. Just a couple hours ago, president also tweeting on this issue. Just kind of break down the bone that Trump continues to pick here.
Right. Well, President Trump is urging GM to save these jobs in Ohio. So looking at this Lordstown plant, the company has been eliminating shifts and laying off workers over the past couple years. About 4,000 people have lost their jobs. Now, the president does have an event in Ohio this week on Wednesday. So ahead of that event, we have seen him really going after GM and going after the local union. In one of the tweets over the weekend, as you mentioned, he said that he did speak to the GM CEO, and he said, "I am not happy that it is closed, that plant in Lordstown, when everything else in our country is booming. I asked her to sell it or do something quickly. She blamed the UAW union. I don't care. I just want it open." He went on to say this morning that car companies are all coming back to the U.S. He says, get that big, beautiful plant in Ohio open now. Close a plant in China or Mexico. He says, bring the jobs home. Now, GM has responded to this in a statement saying that, to be clear, the final decision about any of these plants will be decided between GM and the union. They went on to say, we remain open to talking with all stakeholders, but our main focus remains on our employees and offering them jobs in our plants where we have growth opportunities. Now, the union also gave us a statement saying it will leave no stone unturned to keep these GM plants open. And lawmakers are really taking issue with the fact that the president is kind of blaming the local union for these job losses. Congressman Tim Ryan, who represents the district, said the president's tweets were offensive and counterproductive. And Senator Sherrod Brown also tweeted about this. He talked about the union workers and the union leaders. He says that they have shown grit and determination in the face of adversity, fighting for Lordstown from day one. Instead of attacking workers, it's past time you stood up to GM and joined the fight. Now, Senator Sherrod Brown, I've talked to him several times about this issue. He wants to see GM put in another vehicle in that plant, maybe an electric vehicle in the future. So he says you could save those jobs by taking one of the vehicles that you plan to make elsewhere, by making it in Lordstown, Ohio, by retooling that plant. So we'll see what happens here. Negotiations for the contract between the union and GM are scheduled for this summer, the union tells me. So if they make any final decision about that plant, that could happen during those negotiations.
Jessica, Dan here. It's interesting to see some people saying, Trump shouldn't blame the union because, at least as represented by his tweet, he was saying that it was Marry Barra that blamed the union. And what was interesting to me about that is sort of just the idea that every CEO at this point knows that if they have a phone call with Trump, immediately after the phone call, there's going to be a Trump tweet about the call that might misrepresent what happened. Now, we don't know if he's actually misrepresenting it, but I'm just curious if you're hearing that, might we expect Marry Barra or someone from GM to come out and clarify and say, well, no, we didn't blame the union, contrary to what President Trump tweeted. I mean, I have a feeling that it was a little more complex and he represented it in his tweet.
Well, I did ask GM that. I asked if that was accurate, and, they kind of just gave me that statement that doesn't really address the question. So I don't know if we'll hear more from GM about that conversation. I don't think they want to reveal too many details about the conversation they're having with the president. She has been here on Capitol Hill several times meeting with lawmakers. I know just a few months ago, she met with Senator Rob Portman and Senator Sherrod Brown, and they really pressed her to get another vehicle in that plant. And at that time, she said she couldn't make any promises. So we'll see what happens here.
And of course, Jessica, it's just because it's Ohio, right? That's really what it comes down to. One of the most important electorate states. Jessica Smith, live in our D.C. bureau. Thanks. Speaking of President Trump's Twitter feed, of course, over the weekend, very active for those of you who do follow that, wasn't only bashing GM, he was also very upset about his TV schedule, which was interrupted when Fox pulled the primetime broadcast of Judge Jeanine on Saturday night following Jeanine Pirro's comments on Minnesota Representative Ilhan Omar. So Trump was tweeting about how Fox basically bending to the pressure here, right? Saying fake news media is using every trick in the book to silence a majority of our country because Trump thinks apparently that more than half of the country watches Fox on a regular basis the way that he does. I always find these tweets interesting because he's basically like,
so revealing.
I had plans on Saturday to watch this show. I could not watch the show. Fox must act.
And also, SNL did not have a new episode, so I could not binge on that.
Right.
Yes.
He asked the FCC to get involved in, I mean, he's asked it before, and I think we all know that they're not going to get involved, but like, this is the way that the president spends his free time. He says, do I have regulatory agencies that I can unleash against television stations because I like watching TV?
Yeah, I think this, unfortunately, is just another reminder of how Trump chooses to spend his time, whether it is Saturday evenings or Tuesday mornings or any time in between. And he's not afraid to be vocal and exploit that information.
And, you know, you do wonder, because we're talking to Jessica about the Ohio story, right? The Lordstown plant. It's because this is all about the election now. We are now fully in 2020 season. And I think if you look at Trump's Twitter feed, the amount he's using it now is indicative of him really gearing up. You know, he's tweeting today about low IQ Joe Biden. He's talking about last in his class John McCain. All this stuff is just him saying, I won the election because I said whatever I wanted for 18 straight months on my Twitter feed, and there's about 18 months till the next presidential election.
Work again.
So I'm just going to do it again.
Yeah, the John McCain stuff was really interesting. I saw someone pointing out that it's almost like the ghost of John McCain still haunts the White House because Trump just clearly can't get over past it.
It's very much happening.
Yeah, Trump can't get over it. And the SNL tweet, really interesting too. I don't think he was aware it was a rerun because he tweeted.
I don't think he was aware
as a new idea.
We got to move on.
Why are they allowed to do this?
One day we're going to talk about how stupid it is that we still talk about SNL because only Trump talks about it.
There's some good
I
skits.
don't know. Watches it. It's not funny.